Ancient people were not stupid. They required proofs to convince them that Jesus rose from the dead. One of the mistakes I do not want you to make in reading either the Bible as a whole, but Acts in particular, is to think that, well, because the Bible is written by ancient people for ancient people, therefore it sometimes says things that ancient people found easier to believe than we today find them easy to believe, right? So sometimes without even realizing it, even as Christians, we give in to the spirit of our age and think that, well, because they didn't have modern science, they didn't have iPhones and apps on their iPhones that could tell them when the sun rose, they just talked about the sun rising and setting because they didn't know any better. They didn't know that the earth really revolves around the sun. No. Friends, ancient people knew that dead people had a tendency to stay dead. Nobody needs the modern scientific revolution. I don't need Isaac Newton, okay, or Charles Darwin to tell me that dead people tend to stay dead. Are you with me? In other words, sometimes we patronize the biblical authors and their original audience by thinking that they're somehow stupid or gullible because they lived before the advent of modern science. If we had time, I would go into the ways that modern science has made us stupid, okay? But I will resist the urge to do that. And simply reiterate to you the fact that ancient people were not stupid. They required proofs to convince them that Jesus rose from the dead. The resurrection made no more sense in the first century than it makes now, in the sense of being easy to believe. Now, it makes sense when put in place of the rest of what the Bible teaches about who God is and what he's done on our behalf and who Jesus is, to be sure, okay? But think about when Paul gets to the Areopagus and preaches at Mars Hill. The Athenians are not like, oh yeah, resurrection, that makes good sense to us. No, in fact, as you read through the book of Acts and look at the sermons, it's usually the point where the audience starts to go, okay, this person is an idiot, this is crazy, we're not believing this. It's usually precisely the point where one of the apostles starts to talk about the resurrection, right? People thought belief in the resurrection was crazy, and yet the apostles continued to make it a hallmark of their proclamation. Why is that? That's a question we will answer as we go.